Obviously, I'm really excited to get into my Canadian brother, Edmonton boy stand-up, Tanner Boser. The really great story that I want to share with Tanner Boser is I think I talked about it when KB Bhullar was fighting, but he was actually the one that convinced KB Bhullar to, chase his dreams, that he was good at it, that he should definitely give it a shot. And those are the kind of teammates, those are just the people you want around you, right? That's a really good energy to take away from a teammate. And you can see it in his fights, right? Just the calm, cool, collected outlook. I think in that Andrei Arlovski fight, he was learning a lot about himself. Andrei controlled that fight, man. Tanner Boser went into that fight being considered the faster fighter and all that, but that pace was all Arlovski. If anything, it looked like the fight on the feet in terms of striking, fisticuffs, if you will, was actually quite frustrating. And despite doubling in significant strikes with those leg kicks, Boser still lost the fight. And I think it's, damage versus technique, right? If you're just landing jabs, but nothing's really coming of that, and the other fighter's the one landing the bigger blows, the ones that make the more noise and look the harder ones. But that's where you're going to see Mike Davis. We talked about it. These are all those types of fights where you're seeing that aspect that things change. It's just not about volume. It's really about how the fight looks aesthetically. I think that's where, you have to give the points to head strikes, right? Arlovski was pushing that pace consistently all fight and was pushing the fight to him, was dodging all the shots that he needed to. And I think it showed that Boser's, 1-2 of that jab coming in and overhand right, it was very readable for Arlovski. I think that in this fight, when you're going up against a guy like, Ilir Latifi, now you're able to tell yourself that your only two losses in the UFC are to Andrei Arlovski and Cyril Gane. So you're still holding a 3-2 UFC record going into, what I believe is going to be considered the lead prelim fight against a guy like Latifi, who he himself, we just talked about Francisco Trinaldo and his record, but 7-6 in the UFC, but those 6 losses are Volkan Ozdemir, Corey Anderson, Derek Lewis, in a fight where he was able to win a round with just 5 significant strikes. Those are the things with Latifi you want to be careful of, because if he's able to get in close, push this up against the fence, get it to the ground, I do think that he's going to have a pretty good advantage on the ground in this fight. When I'm looking back, Boser's fights, we're going to look at the stats here now, but he's never really been tested in that light. I think that his striking is either really proven to be his key to victory, or he's had to fight other people's games in terms of striking battles and lose. In this case, you're looking at the shared 100% takedown defense across the board, right? I think Ilir Latifi is constantly looking to push that pace and get it up against the fence, because he's always coming in as that thicker, smaller guy. In this fight, it's 6'2" versus 5'10", but no real reach disadvantage in that 75 versus 73 inches. So that's where I'm actually seeing a very tough fight for Tanner Boser, right? Because if that jab, overhand right, and any leg kicks damage that he's trying to do is not working, I think Latifi's ability to push the fight into him versus the striking game of Arlovski could still spell a victory for Ilir Latifi. Because like I said, I didn't even finish those 6 losses, but after the Lewis fight, we still have 3 fights in, Gegard Mousasi in his debut, Ryan Bader, and Jan Blachowicz, who's currently the light heavyweight champion of the world. So just to finish off those 6 losses that he's had in the UFC, I mean, those are top tier fighters, top 10 bar none. So for me, this is a great test for Boser. This is where I do see he can kind of gauge where he's at in his UFC career, because again, young enough to know that he should be going for that title, but having to deal with that block of, bottom 5 of that top 15 is really where he's finding himself right now. And I'm excited to see him fight. I think he's shown improvement in all these fights, especially as a striker. And when we see him taking on guys who are either new to the UFC or on the come up, he's done very well. So that's where, I think that Ilir Latifi has a very dark horse chance of winning this fight. Now, if we're talking about lines, I really want to give the edge to Tanner Boser, because I think that in terms of volume, in terms of keeping the fight standing, he tends to do that very well. And it's kind of the one area that he has to keep this fight, right? I do think that if he's able to avoid any type of takedown or clinch work inside the dirty boxing ranges of any kind, Latifi's gonna have struggles fighting at range. And I'm hoping that that's what Boser's where he's trying to keep the fight. So let's take a look at these lines right now. I mean, minus 180 opening line for Boser, coming in at about a minus 210, minus 220 on most sites. Even money right now on Bet365. Interesting. So just to kind of wrap that up there, Ilir Latifi opened at a plus 155 dog. On most sites, he's coming as a plus 160 to a plus 170 dog. But on Bet365 right now, he's showing to be a even money fighter against Tanner Boser. Just to throw that out there, guys. This is a very close fight. I think stylistically, it's going to be, can Boser strike and keep the fight standing and have Ilir Latifi at bay for 15 minutes if he can't finish him? Or is Ilir Latifi going to eat these strikes, push forward, land some big kicks himself maybe, and just get the fight to the ground using some dirty boxing and clinch work, ride that, grind that. I mean, who knows, man? I think that one's going to be a really tough one to call. And I'm going to be excited to watch it because I think Tanner Boser has something to prove after the Andrei Arlovski fight, but losing to the Arlovskis and Ganes of the world are okay. Losing to the Ilir Latifis might spell a different, game plan for him moving forward. But I'm excited. I hope you guys are too.